Yucky.
Okay. Good morning. This is State and Local Government Committee. Today we have work sessions on 3 bills. I'd like to go around and have folks introduce themselves, and then we'll get started with the public hearings. First, Senator Baldacci.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Matlack. My name is Joe Baldacci. I'm co-chair of State and Local Government Committee. I represent District 9, which is the city of Bangor and the town of Herman. Thank you.
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Kimberly Rosen, Senate District 8. My district goes from Castine up to Lincoln, and I live in Bucksport.
Thank you. Representative Bryant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Mark Bryant. I represent House District 24, out of the town of Wyndham. Welcome all.
Thank you. Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Lynn Copeland, and I'm honored to represent the folks currently in House District 14, soon to be House District 130 in coastal and downtown Saco, and I am appearing remotely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. Representative Downs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Downs. I'm from District 130, which represents Bucksport and Orrington. Welcome all.
Thank you. And Representative Toole.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Will Toole. I represent the Machias area plus Lubec and Eastport. It's great to be with everyone today from the hotel in Augusta.
Thank you very much, sir. So this is a work session. It will be a discussion by committee members, and we will ask various interested parties to come assist us with our discussions. But mostly we'll listen to our legal analyst, Lynn Caswell. We were also assisted by committee clerk Sharon McGowan. So I think we'll get started on, do we want to go numerically, or you said Representative Lookner is in the waiting room? Then let's move to Representative Lookner's bill, and we'll get started with, my apologies, Cheryl.
No worries.
Okay, we'll get started with, let me see, I just put my page on that one.
1658, I believe.
1658?
I believe so.
Okay. Yes, it is 1658. Thank you. Welcome, Representative Lookner.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're most welcome. We're going to hear from our analyst first with regard to the bill. I've probably messed up her format, but Lynn Caswell will walk us through her information with regard to this bill. Let's see where we got, excuse me. Her analysis of this bill, that'll be great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So before I start, 2 items. One, there was a motion to table this bill in May. So the committee would need to make a motion to move it off the table. And also, I believe we have a new member, Representative Head, who just signed on and hasn't introduced herself.
Thank you. Representative Head, good morning. If you could introduce yourself, that'd be terrific. Looks like you're all set to go. I don't think you're on mute, Representative Head, so if you just want to introduce yourself. Now you're on mute. There you go. Good morning. Would you like to introduce yourself, Representative Head?
She evidently can't hear us.
Can you hear us, Representative Head?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, dear. Let's wait a second and see if she comes back. Representative Head, can you hear us? Well, while we're waiting for Representative Head, may I have a motion to take this bill off the table, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Representative Toole, and a second,
A second.
Senator Baldacci. Thank you very much. So moved and seconded that we move this bill from the table, and we will now hear from Ms. Caswell, and when Representative Head rejoins us, we'll have her introduce herself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you are working LD 1658, which is Representative Lookner's bill. And as I said, the Ethics Commission Representative Jonathan
Wayne
is in the waiting room, but he said he does need to pop in and out. So this bill, and I'm going to share my screen for a little bit, and hopefully this appears. This bill makes, as it's drafted, makes changes on municipal campaigns and referenda campaigns. And as drafted, it changes the requirements for municipalities that are greater than 50,000 or more, though the sponsor has proposed an amendment that would make this requirement down to 30,000 or more. I believe you heard testimony that only Portland has a population of 50,000 or more, and there are approximately, well, I'll go through that later. I have that actually written out. So these are the specific new requirements on the commission that this bill seeks to change. It would require registration and reports to the commission for municipalities over 50,000 or over 30 as amended. It would require the commission to oversee filings and reports, to receive notifications. Again, I got pretty detailed on this, but and basically it's requiring the filing of forms and the oversight of campaign financing, campaign registration, ballot questions, and PACs. The changes, new requirements on municipalities. One is that municipalities must refer potential substantial violations. Currently, it says they may refer. And another new requirement is that the municipalities must post campaign contribution reports within 24 hours of the filing date. I think that might be, okay, where'd y'all go? Oh, did I just stop sharing my screen? Yes. And you got to see not my face. So as I said, this bill was brought to you by Representative Lookner. The individuals who testified in favor of this were the Maine Town and Clerks Association, Maine Citizens for Clean Elections. They expressed one concern with the 24-hour posting, the requirement on municipalities that they post within 24 hours. The municipalities, town and clerks asked that that be extended because that's a fairly short deadline. They said that they had surveyed municipalities with over 15,000 and most were in favor. I think those were the main comments in favor of this was transparency, providing some support to municipalities. There were questions about contributions that are made in municipal campaigns and in referenda questions, and I attached and will show in a minute some of the figures that we were able to put together. There were no opponents to this, and the only neither for nor against was, of course, the Ethics Commission came and talked about the increased burden this would place on the Ethics Commission, mentioned that if you amended it down to 15,000, and again, the sponsors proposal is to lower it to 30,000. That would increase the number of candidates that the commission is responsible for following by about 160. I will say that Jonathan did provide an estimate, and he may be able to answer questions about this. The e-filing system would need to be updated or revised to allow for municipal filings, and the estimate from the IT vendor was approximately $100,000. So that would be a cost for this bill. And I don't know if that is 100,000 regardless of the number of municipalities. So that is something the committee should keep in mind. I'm going to share my screen again so that I can show you and respond to the question about contributions in municipal elections. And let's see if I can make this move. That was, of course, on this page, which of course is sideways, so that's not very helpful to you all. So I'm going to stop screen sharing that. But I can let you know, and it was in the material I submitted to you, that we were able to find information for Portland, South Portland, and Westbrook, and contributions ranged for referenda questions from about 50,000 to about 10,000. So there were some monetary contributions to municipal campaigns, campaign referenda, and that was in the attachment that I provided to you. The drafting of the bill, as far as the language, I didn't find any issues, technical issues. It looks complicated, but that's because you're providing a lot of changes to two statutes, both 21A and 30A. 21A being elections and 30A being municipal oversight. And I think that the sponsor may have something to say, and or Mr. Wayne. And I'm able to answer questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you very much. First, before we hear from Representative Lookner, Representative Reisman is with us. Could you introduce yourself, please, sir?
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Technical issues as usual. I'm Representative Walter Reisman. I live in Harrison. I represent District 69, which is Bridgeton, Harrison, and Denmark. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, Representative Lookner, I understand you have an amendment for this bill.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I think Ms. Coswell pretty much nailed it. It does. So the amendment would lower it down to 30,000. We had a really good conversation with the clerks and the Ethics Commission. And I think Director Wayne, he'll probably, talk about the support that that ethics would need to implement this, and the bill provides for that with an additional staffer during biennial elections. So that's part of it. Lowers it to 30,000. I did want to include the 48-hour or 2 business day filing deadline instead of 24 hours. I meant to change that. And that didn't make it into my amendment that I submitted. So I meant to include that. So if the committee wants to add the 48 hours or 2 business days into that, I would be grateful for that. And that's pretty much it. Lowers it to 30,000, then asks also commissions to offer a biennial training that's not mandatory, because that was something else that the clerks brought up, was that additional training is needed. So for all the municipalities, under the 30,000 that have substantial municipal campaign spending, could use a little help there, just as far as training. And so the bill provides for that as well. I think that just campaign spending is going to become more of an issue in our local elections as things go forward. And it's good that we're taking this up now. And I think what we've got here is something that that works for everybody.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wayne, welcome to State and Local Government this morning. You had some comments with regard to this bill?
Right. Well, I think in meeting with Representative Lookner and some of the good government reform advocates and the clerks, I mean, I think what the advocates and Representative Lookner, one of the advantages they're looking for is to have the reports filed electronically through a website, which has some advantages. And I'm a big believer in having that happen. And that's what we do with our county and legislative candidates. But we have not received the cost estimate yet from our vendor, but they've signaled it would be at least 700 hours of labor on their part, which would translate into a cost of above $100,000. And we just don't have a general fund budget to pay for that. So there would be a cost associated with having the local candidates, even say 3 municipalities, file their reports with us electronically that we just can't make go away. I wish we could, but we can't. And in terms of the staffing, if you'll just permit me, some of my comments that I made at the public hearing were directed at the idea that all 15 municipalities would be sending us each 10 or 15 candidates that they currently receive reports from now themselves. And what I was concerned about, but even if it's just 3 municipalities and we have an additional, say, 40 or 50 candidates during an election year, we really have our hands full. I'll try to wrap it up, Representative, but you know, our 2 permanent employees help out and monitor 500 candidates during the election year, and they're evaluating qualifying contributions and authorizing public funds payments to about 200 candidates during an election year, all the way through October. So we are sort of barely holding it together with 2 permanent staff members. So we're not trying to play games, but for us to take another 40 or 50 candidates, we do judge that would tip the scales into us wanting to hire a project position every other year, which should be paid for. Probably 3/4 of it should probably be paid for from the general fund, although maybe we could justify 1/4 of it being paid for from the Main Clean Election Fund, which is a special revenue fund. But it just, to sort of add a new 40 or 50 candidates on top of the 500 we're already doing it, I think it would just exceed what our 2 current permanent employees could do. So those are sort of, I understand the good intentions of everybody involved here, but those are just sort of the realities of us having our hands full in terms of staffing and our technology.
Thank you, sir. Am I hearing you that you say you do have your hands full already, especially in even years, with just 2 staff people? Would adding a 3rd staff person help ameliorate that over time? And that person would then be able to handle municipal elections?
Right. So I don't think we need I think it would be a mistake for this and not cost effective for the state and for taxpayers for us to hire a 3rd permanent person who's with us year in and year out. I think that would actually lead to sort of an overstaffing if in the odd numbered years. I think the way we would go about doing this is hiring a project position, which is I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on this. So this would be a 3rd person working with candidates every other year during the even numbered years when those are the times we're really busy. So it wouldn't be a permanent position, it'd be a 3rd person every other year. That's what we think it would take.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there Representative Toole, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And our analyst raised an issue earlier that Mr. Wayne might want to weigh in on.
I'm sorry, you just sort of you sort of faded away there for a second. If you could repeat your comment, that'd be great.
I turned my head. So yes, our analyst raised an issue that Mr. Wayne might want to weigh in on. And that is, if additional communities are added, would you then have to go back to the vendor and add in potential extra modules or what have you Would it depend on how many? Would it be sort of every time somebody comes forward? Because I do see this as kind of a slippery slope here. Before you know it, we could have a pile of towns and whatnot. So I just wanted the thoughts on that.
Mr. Wayne?
I think under the amendment that Representative Lichtner described, where we were adding candidates and PACs from 3 municipalities, we would be going to our vendor and saying, could you modify the system to allow us to receive municipal PACs and municipal candidates? And in fact, because we know we're obliged to come up with for the legislature with a cost estimate, we've actually are pressing them now to do that cost estimate. So it would just be a one-time cost to add municipal candidates, because the system right now is set up for candidates for certain offices, and it assigns filing schedules based on the idea that all candidates most candidates have a primary election and a general election in June and November. And so they assign filing schedules to candidates and PACs according to certain schedules. And I know these IT systems they're just sort of, once they get set up, they're sort of rigid, and it takes money to modify them and change them. And so it would be a one-time cost. And that's what they're saying. We're really pressing them to come up with an exact number, which would still be an estimate, but I think it will be above 100,000. We haven't heard the cost yet, but it would be a one-time cost.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thanks. Thank you. And I was wondering, because if eventually this did get expanded to additional municipalities, some have different election schedules, some have different ways of some do town meeting form of government versus a traditional go to the polls type of thing. So I was curious if once you get into smaller municipalities, the types may change. That's the only reason I asked.
Well, I believe we're talking about populations of 30,000.
Right.
Right. So there's very few of them. I think what I heard
Right.
was 2 would be added. So unless we go to all municipalities, I think that keeping it at the larger municipalities would set us up for preparation for doing this statewide if it becomes necessary. Senator Baldacci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would first move this item off the table. Is that correct, Lynn? That's the
No, we
first
already
thing
moved it off the table.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Then I would make a motion to adopt the amendment that's been provided and to move to ought to pass as amended.
With the fiscal note.
With a fiscal note, correct.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second for that motion? Yes, Representative Reisman seconded that motion. Further discussion of this bill.
Madam Chair, I just
Representative-
wanted to, oh,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes, sir. No,
I
that's
just
okay.
wanted to add to what that I think extending this to Bangor and Lewiston and Portland will allow us to determine how it works, and 2, hopefully to start to standardize the process that will grow eventually for all municipalities. But I think this is a good step forward for campaign transparency and making sure that the campaigns are run fairly and above board. And I commend Representative Lichtner really on shepherding this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I believe Representative Bryant, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarity, in that amended motion, does it also include the addition that Representative Lichtner said verbally? I will make sure that's in there so it's clear to everybody what we're really voting on, if that was Senator Baldacci's intent.
Yeah, yes, it was.
If I may add, including the 48 hours as opposed to 24-hour filing deadline.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, on the issue of the 48 hours, I could see that being a problem over the weekend. So Representative Lichtner brought up the fact that it could be 2 business days, and I would suggest that, and that's what I'd like to see in the amendment. I agree about the transparency, and $100,000 sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But we need to move forward, and that includes technology. We're finding that a lot of our technical infrastructure is outdated. So, if we're gonna, move forward, I think one of the things that we need to do is put our information online for total transparency for everyone to see, and it's okay to spend that money for that, because I think the return on that money is priceless.
Thank you. Representative Tool.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be opposing the motion. I think this is a slippery slope, and while some of the bigger communities have a lot of capacity, once this eventually, and I realize it's 30,000 now, next year it'll be 15, 10, before long it'll be 2,500. And I just fear that we're starting down a road that a lot of communities just don't have the capacity to deal with, nor does the state. So I'll be voting not to pass.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments with regard to this bill? Seeing, yes, Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to reiterate what I understand the motion to be including. So lowering from 50 to 30, adding language that these are 2 of Representative Luckner's amendments, adding language requiring the Ethics Commission to hire temporary staff every other biennium, and requiring the Ethics Commission to do training every other biennium, and then changing the posting from 24 hours, and this is kind of a question, is it to 48 or to 2 business days?
I think Senator Baldacci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would say 2 business days.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you for the catch, Representative Copeland. I believe Senator Baldacci, that's your motion as stated by Lynn? Okay, thank you very much. Correct. Thank you. Are there any other comments that we from committee members? There being none, Cheryl, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
LD 1658 ought to pass as amended. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
No.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, no. Senator Ned Claxton, absent. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Representative William Toole.
No.
Representative William Toole, no. Representative Mark Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Mark Bryant, yes. Representative Randall Greenwood, absent. Representative Sean Paulus, absent. Representative Francis Head, absent. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
No.
Representative Kathy Downs, no. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. 5 yes, 3 no, and 5 absent.
Thank you very much. We appreciate Representative Luckner and Mr. Wayne coming by to visit with us. Yes, Representative Toole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to let Cheryl know that I've received a message from Representative Head. If you could just resend her the link,
Yep.
she will jump back on.
I will. And Representative, what was your motion? Not motion, but is it ought to pass, ought not to pass?
Representative Toole, how is the opponent's to this bill? What is their
Oh,
motion?
not to pass. I'm sorry. I was a little,
That's all right.
I froze
That's
up
okay.
there.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the same
Um,
with Senator Rosen and, yeah, Senator Rosen and Representative Downs? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Wayne and Representative Lookner, for coming by and chatting with us about the bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Do we have anybody in the waiting room with regard to either of the other two bills?
Yes, Representative Warren is there.
Thank you. Could you bring Representative Warren over and we'll take up LD 383?
I will.
Thank you.
We also have Senator Baldacci as the representative to the 1832.
Thank you. Welcome back, Representative Warren. Thank you for being here with us today. Lynn, if you could walk us through this, LD 383, that would be great. Refresh our memory about this bill.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This bill was tabled, so a motion to remove from the table is needed.
Oh, yes, yes, please. May I have a motion to remove this bill from the table?
So moved.
Thank you, Representative Copeland. A second?
Second.
Senator Rosen seconds. Thank you very much. All in favor of removing this from the table? Thank you. So Lynn.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So if you took a moment and looked at the materials I provided on this bill, you will notice that there was quite a lot. This bill, so I'm going to start with the summary because I may lose you when I'm going through the details. And the summary is what I put under matters for consideration. And that is if the committee moves forward to amend the current statute in 30A 4362, I would caution you to ensure that you do not create conflicts with the federal statutes and the regulatory standards that apply. So that's the conclusion that's my caution for this bill, because there is quite a bit of federal law and court cases around the idea of municipal regulation of small wireless facilities. So this was a concept draft, and the sponsor, Representative Warren, submitted a proposal to you all, which you, I think, received last week. And the proposal is, number one, to remove the word non-discriminatory from the current statute. Number two, to allow municipal regulation with respect to certain items, protecting the visual character, protecting historical properties, maintaining aesthetics, establishing required distances, and establishing maximum noise emissions. And finally, the amendment allows municipalities to charge fees to cover their reasonable costs incurred in processing applications. So from the testimony, you may remember that Representative Warren, and also there was quite a bit of written testimony submitted primarily from members of the communities. So Representative Warren testified that the non-discriminatory word that is in the current statute was creating conflicts for municipalities in trying to determine what that allowed. There was also statements by members of the public that the industry was advising communities that their ideas of regulations were not permitted under federal law. So there was a bit of confusion out there in the municipalities regarding the siting of small wireless facilities. And to remind you, small wireless facilities under the statute are defined, I believe, as being no more than 28 cubic feet. I just want to state that I did hear someone refer to them as being refrigerator size. I am not good with measurements. I don't know if 28 cubic feet is a refrigerator or not. So there's a little bit, perhaps the industry could help the committee understand and me understand whether we're talking about small wireless facilities that are attached to poles versus a larger refrigerator type item. So that was where the industry and members of the public who testified in support of this bill, that's where the sponsor and members of the public testified in support of the bill. Opponents were the Maine Municipal Association and CTIA, which is an industry representative organization. MMA, you'll recall, they had not had an opportunity to provide this to their policy committee. They said that they would submit written testimony if the committee had a different opinion than what Neil Goldberg shared. There was no subsequent written testimony submitted by MMA, so I think we will rely on what Mr. Goldberg talked about. He talked about the previous statute that was enacted in the 2019, and talked about home rule and the statement that this may be unnecessary because municipalities already have home rule authority in this area. He also talked about MMA had been working on a model ordinance to provide guidance to municipalities. And he is the individual where I heard, I think, refrigerator size. So the industry also testified against. They thought it was unnecessary. Their concerns were about conflicts with the federal statute. They pointed out that state roads, the siting and the permitting for small wireless is within MDOT's jurisdiction, whereas the local roads are within municipal jurisdiction. And I see a note from Neil Goldberg that says that he testified in support. So I apologize, Mr. Goldberg. I know we're not supposed to have comments in the chat, but that's a critical comment. So
is Mr. Goldberg here?
I'm
Cheryl?
thinking he may be.
Okay, if we could
Yes,
bring
he is.
if he could bring Mr. Goldberg over, that would be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Would you like me to continue, Madam Chair? Or would you
Yes,
like
please.
To?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So the additional information I want to share with you, and I'm not sharing my screen because it's a lot of words, and I don't want to distract you, but I am more than happy to share my screen. The first point I want to make is home rule authority is the general rule, and that means that municipalities can act in an area unless there's a state or federal law that says they cannot. The current statute was enacted in the 129th. It was sponsored by Representative Pierce. It was unanimous to pass as amended out of the committee. Under the current statute, municipalities retain their home rule authority, except that they must permit them within a public right-of-way, meaning they can't ban them outright. The municipality's conditions must be non-discriminatory, which I will mention later is actually the phrase from federal statute, that it cannot be discriminatory. And the section 4362 enacted in the 129th also requires that the ordinances be consistent with state and federal law. The federal law that's applicable is the Federal Telecommunications Act, and it too allows states and local governments to retain authority with respect to placement, construction, and modification of, they call them personal wireless service facilities. There are some exceptions under federal law, and perhaps this might be helpful. Well, the regulation cannot unreasonably discriminate. I think that's where the non-discriminatory phrase in the current statute comes from. So municipalities cannot unreasonably discriminate among providers. They cannot prohibit the wireless service facilities, or they can't have ordinances that have the effect of prohibiting. They must act on applications within a reasonable time period. They must provide the decisions in writing. They must be supported by evidence. So that's the general Federal Trade Commission that's applicable. Municipalities have the authority, but they have to be non-discriminatory. And they can't be an outright prohibition. In 2018, there were two, what they call orders, declaratory orders. One's called the small cell order and one's called the moratoria order. Those two orders were the subject of extensive litigation, and that led to a decision in 2020 in the Ninth Circuit. So the two orders, the small cell and the moratoria order from the Federal Communications Commission, was intended to promote the siting of small cell wireless facilities and impose some limitations on municipalities. When the Ninth Circuit made its decision, and that decision was appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court declined to look at it. So the Ninth Circuit decided that many of the features in these orders were permitted. The orders restricted municipalities' ability to an outright ban, that's fine. The orders set limits on fees, that was found to be fine. The order set limit as to how long a municipality had to process an application, and those were all fine. The orders also set aesthetic standards on these facilities, and the Ninth Circuit found those restrictions in the orders to be impermissible. And some of the things that they said that I think are helpful, they said that municipalities can discriminate among providers, that, but they can't discriminate among similarly situated providers. So a cable that goes on a pole is different in structure and effect than a refrigerator. I mean, making that up, I don't know, but those are different. So municipalities have the ability to distinguish and have different ordinances that between different types of things. What they can't do is they can't discriminate against 5 different providers who want to put up a refrigerator, right? So you can't discriminate among the certain type of providers, but you can discriminate between different types. So let's see. So that's what the Ninth Circuit said. I will point out that there are 2 bills in the US Congress regarding aesthetic regulation of small wireless facilities. They're quite extensive. I believe I attached them. One of them's, I don't know, 10 pages long. I have no idea the future of those bills in the US Congress. I don't even attempt to know what happens outside of the state of Maine when it comes to political activities. But I will say that there are efforts on the federal level to clarify what municipalities and how municipalities are allowed to regulate. I did do some research on examples of model ordinances, and I found quite a lot of model ordinances. The city of Syracuse has an ordinance. The Federal Communications Commission is working on a model ordinance. I believe the city of Lewiston has an ordinance. As I said, MMA discussed that they were working on an ordinance. There are quite a lot of articles out there that describe what is allowed and what is not allowed with respect to municipal control over the siting, the permitting of these small cell wireless facilities. More than I could absorb, but I think that there is quite a lot out there for people who need to enact ordinances or to make these decisions to rely on. And I think that is the bulk of the information. Just so you know, there's federal regulations, there's federal law. The current statute, I believe, I'm just summing up here. The current statute, I believe, does comply with federal requirements. And again, my caution is if you are going to amend the current statute, to be cautious of not creating a preemption issue and not enacting a statute that may be struck down because it's contrary to the federal law. And I am happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much. I will quickly ask Representative Head to introduce herself. Welcome, Representative Head. Sorry you had so much problem getting in. Okay, there you are.
Yes, good morning. I'm sorry for we've had problems with our internet and everything since the snowstorm. And thank you, Madam Chairman, for calling on me and allowing me to introduce myself. I'm Frances Head from Bethel, and I represent District 117. And thank you.
Welcome, Representative Head. Does anybody on the committee have questions of Lynn Caswell this morning? Representative Warren, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. I don't know if it's possible, but to clarify around the Federal Trade Commission says that different regulations or permitting can't be unreasonably discriminatory, which is different than saying non-discriminatory, like that. That makes sense. So I'm wondering if there's more clarification for the committee.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yes.
Is there a difference, or how do you parse that?
I thank you, Representative Warren, for that question. I do believe that there is a difference between non-discriminatory and I'm looking for the exact phrase, and regulations that do not unreasonably discriminate. So I do think that if the committee wanted to change the phrase take the phrase non-discriminatory out of the current statute and replace it with not unreasonably discriminate, then that would bring the state statute in conformity with what the federal law says. So I do think that there is a slight difference, and that is would not raise issues with preemption for me.
Thank you. Senator Baldacci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I appreciate the concerns that I've received from many people regarding local control. As somebody who served in the Bangor City Council for 12 years, I'm very sensitive to that issue and think that people at the local level tend to know best about what they should be doing. But I read the statute the way it is currently, and I understand Representative Warren's concerns, but I honestly think that municipalities have options under the bill. I think as I read it, the non-discriminatory language really just meant that the municipality couldn't act against one company but for another company based on arbitrary standards. And I actually think that the state law is actually better in terms of the non-discrimination issue than the federal law, because the federal law that's just been cited here actually says they can't be unreasonably discriminatory, which means that there's some room to be quote unquote reasonably discriminatory. So then a blanket non-discriminatory. But in any event, beyond that issue, I think we need to provide less uncertainty and more certainty to the telecommunications business, to the growth of this business, particularly the growth that is very welcomed across the state, both in terms of jobs and in terms of investments. So I think that we need to spend a lot more time vetting this issue, but at this point, Madam Chair, I would move ought not to pass.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. Any further questions for folks, Representative Warren or Mr. Goldberg, or any questions with regard to what Lynn has presented to us? Representative Warren?
Well, I just wanted to thank the committee for their consideration, and to the constituents here in Scarborough that helped bring this forward. I did want to ask, because of the nature of the very thoughtful discussion last time, that this was a work session, but it was one where there may be opportunity for a more community input, just because of the nature of the public hearing and giving more people time to read my sponsor amendment. There is a former Scarborough Town Councilor, Betsy Gleistein, that I believe is in the waiting room, or is viewing this, and I don't know if there's an opportunity to hear from her, but I just wanted, just in respect to her, I wanted to just name that in case that was something that were possible.
Thank you. I would be willing to hear Ms. Gleistein if she has some succinct comments with regard to this bill. If you could bring her over, Cheryl, that would be fine.
She's on her way.
Thank you. Ms. Gleistein, welcome to State and Local Government. If you could introduce yourself and briefly give us comments with regard to this bill.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Betsy Gleistein, and I'm a former town councilor from Scarborough, Maine. Also a former selectman from Frye Island, Maine, a former BOA member from SAD 6. I currently live in Scarborough, Maine. And I am in favor of this bill. I appreciate the comments by Senator Baldacci. I do think that the place to work out land use issues is at the local level. And the non-discriminatory phrase is very difficult to get past when you're working at the local level. And, in Scarborough, there's definitely debate amongst the members of the council. So I'm not saying any of this is going to happen if you pass Representative Warren's amendment. But it's a good place to make sure that we've struck the right balance for making sure that we have the input of those who are most affected by this. And yes, this is going forward. 5G is going forward. There is a federal order. There is the state law. But I think what we would ask is that the state of Maine, like New Hampshire, who's digging into this, is stepping up to make sure that the rights are protected for the individual property owners and individual within the communities. And I encourage you, it is refrigerator size. I did send you a PDF in your email. I did send pictures from around the country of some of the things that work well when the telecoms are cooperating with the municipalities. And I also sent some that are actually already installed in Maine. And so I would just challenge you to think, what if this ends up in my front yard at my front door? Because if you live in a rural area, that's not going to happen, because 5G is really not about the rural areas. They do a lot of hype that it's going to help the rural areas, but it is there's a lot of things that have to happen to get 5G into the rural areas. And they're actually, I hope someday to speak on this, there's better, cheaper technology out there that could do that than working with 5G, but it would be much cheaper. The telecoms might not make as much money on it. That might be why. But this thing kind of went out there like the Wild West with third-party installers they, the telecoms were smart. They said, hey, we've got this carte blanche and nobody's going to stop us at this point, from this order. Of course, it wasn't a law from the Congress. And if we had not had COVID, I really think we'd be talking about something different, because the last thing I'll emphasize is this is absolutely positively a bipartisan issue. The legislation in Congress is bipartisan. It's got a Republican sponsor and a Democrat sponsor. And COVID hit right when it was starting to move through. If I had to categorize, quote unquote sides of this issue, I think it would be people who support, for whatever reason, telecom almost entirely regulating themselves, versus those of us who really kind of believe, hey, it's coming, let's do it, we want to do it, but it's got to be balanced, with decades and decades of land use regulation. We're not going to slow it down. They do have some special law with orders that they got passed, but don't cut us out of the loop altogether. I think, really quickly, we all saw what happened. Those of us who've been in on this issue, we knew about the airplane and the airport issue. We also know about some issues related to weather. And, everybody's like, well, how could this happen? They're about to turn them on. It's going to interfere with the airlines. Well, yes, this has been well known. Why did Europe balk? Well, because Europe regulates this much more.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Is there a time limit?
Yeah, sorry about
Yes, sir. If you could wrap up, please, Ms. Gleisten.
Yeah, so Europe regulates it a lot more, and that's why it wasn't a problem at their airports. And we just need that kind of detailed ability to dig in, not to stop it, not to overregulate it, to follow within federal law, but the non-discriminatory clause and what Representative Warren has proposed would be a big help to municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments with regard to this bill, or with regard to the motion ought not to pass? Representative Toole?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize. I cut out, and ironically enough, I'm using 5G at the moment to connect. So
Okay.
that is a little ironic, but I will concur with Senator Baldacci and Senator Rosen. I just don't think that this is the best time and the best vehicle, the best way to deal with this, and we'll also be voting on to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments from committee members? There being none, Cheryl, if you could call the roll, please. I'm sorry, Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One issue that the former city councilor or town councilor from Scarborough brought up was the fact that it's not rural and it's, in the, a denser population. And what about if somebody wanted to put a refrigerator sized thing in my front lawn? I mean, what protections would we have?
I think that I think what the what municipalities would tell you is that it's up to the municipalities. They have the ability currently to make regulations with regard to these issues, and that the bill already deals with that. The bill 2 years ago took that into consideration, and if a municipality is in need of regulations or would like to have regulations in place, that May Municipal is developing developing standards for ordinances in different districts. So those are available. It's not that municipalities can't do these things, but it would be up to the municipalities to come forward and do it on their own, to take responsibility for what's happening in their municipality. And at that point, there will be public comment. There will be the public will be made aware of what's going on, and it would be up to the municipalities themselves to determine whether or not that this is something they want to discuss and something some sort of non-discriminatory ordinance that they want to institute. So from my perspective, I believe that all the safeguards are in place already for municipalities, and if they wish to change their statutes, it's permissible. Their ordinances, I'm sorry, it would be permissible.
Thank you for that clarification.
Oh, thank you. Is there any other concern, any other questions, any other comments right now? Okay, Cheryl, if you could call the roll, please.
Yes. LD 383 ought not to pass. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton, absent. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Representative William Toole.
Yes.
Representative William Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Mark Bryant, yes. Representative Randall Greenwood, absent. Representative Sean Paulus, absent. Representative Francis Head.
Yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. 9 yes, 4 absent.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to close the workshop on that bill. Cheryl, Representative Head is with us. Did you want to ask her about her vote on LD 1832?
Yes, Representative Greenwood, LD 1658. Yep,
Okay.
LD 1658. We had 5 ought to pass as amended and 3 ought not to pass as amended. And Senator Joseph Baldacci, Representative Ann Matlack, Representative Mark Bryant, Representative Walter Reisman, and Representative Lynn Copeland voted to ought to pass as amended. Senator Kimberly Rosen, Representative William Toole, Representative Kathy Downs voted ought not to pass.
Ought not to pass.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. We will now move to LD 1658. This is Senator Baldacci's bill with regard to the Saginaw technical error that occurred. I believe that we just proceed with a regular work session on this one. Is that correct, Lynn?
That's correct,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Okay. If you could discuss with us, or
Yes.
thank you.
And Cheryl, Deputy Secretary of State Julie Flynn is in the waiting room, and I believe that there are some questions for her.
Yes,
So
please.
this bill is fairly straightforward, and I'm going to try sharing my screen. So the prior law had Saginaw County Commissioner districts divided. Districts 1 and 3 expired in 2024, and District 2 expired in 2022. There was the apportionment plan that was submitted by the Apportionment Commission. That did not include terms of office because terms of office is not part of the apportionment process. So when the apportionment plan was presented to the legislature in the second special session, there was an appendix added, and that appendix added terms of office for all the county commissioner districts. I believe the intent was to replicate the terms of office as they were in the prior section. However, there was an error, and instead of 1 and 3 expiring in 2024, it was districts 1 and 2 that expired in 2024 and District 3 in 2022. What this bill does is fix that error and bring the terms of office for Saginaw County Commissioner districts back to what they were all along. And that is, as I said, it's fairly straightforward. I believe there was a question for Julie Flynn about how this all will play out now during the 2022 election cycle. So unless someone has questions for me, I thought that you could ask questions to Ms. Flynn.
Thank you. Ms. Flynn, welcome to State and Local Government. We appreciate you being here to answer some of our questions. Could you clarify for us the repercussions of doing this when folks might have been able to take out papers a couple of weeks ago and may have?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I do believe people are circulating petitions. We don't issue them specifically for an office. And if you've gotten your own petitions, you'll know we did post them on our webpage this year so people could download them themselves and customize them, or we provide them as blanks. So we often don't know. I'm not aware if anyone from Saginaw County has already gotten petitions, but we can certainly make them aware if you pass this bill, that it would be just District 3 that would be up for election this year, rather than District 2, as the apportionment plan was adopted by the legislature on September 29th. I will mention, I've just seen that you've scheduled LD 1936 for a hearing before this committee next week. That is codifying all the Senate, House, and County Commissioner districts. So even if you were to pass this, you'd need to go back in and amend that because Saginaw County is on page 91 of that bill, and it has this same error as you're seeking to correct here.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to let Julie Flynn and the committee know that yes, the next apportionment bill will need to be also revised, but that, and I'll explain it later, but it had to be written that way in the 1936 bill. But it too will be if you vote this out of committee, that will affect that other bill.
Thank you. As an aside, I have heard from the Knox County Administrator that there is also a clarification with regard to the Knox County Budget Committee, which is elected in Knox County. And so I believe that may also be something that we need to fix in the upcoming bill. Thank you. Representative Toole.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming, Ms. Flynn. I'm going to try to give you a scenario, and if you are confused as much as I am by it, then feel free to ask for clarification. So let's say in District 3, which is not technically up until 2024, candidate 1 decides to be an eager beaver and go out and start collecting signatures. Somebody else says, well, it's technically not up this year, I'm not going to be collecting signatures. Then we change the law. Have we not then given unwittingly an unfair advantage? And how would you rectify that? I know I have a solution for it that would pretty much start and finish everybody at the same point. But how would you respond to that?
I guess I'm wondering whether the commissioner, I'm not sure what the status, I'm afraid I didn't look up what the status was, whether we had incumbents in there or what the situation is. But I think if you pass something as an emergency, you know, the county commissioners can be made available, the public can be made available, and you know, they'll be still there's almost 6 weeks to still circulate and get the signatures. So, you know, as I say, I'm not aware that anybody, because no one has to tell us what district they're running for. We just provide the petitions as blanks unless they ask us to customize them before we print them for them. Or if they print them themselves, we wouldn't know who's out there circulating, unfortunately.
Representative Toole, what is your solution?
So my solution would be to say, let's say we vote this unanimously today, get it on the calendar next week. My solution would be to say, everybody can collect signatures between February 15th and whatever deadline, let's say for argument's sake, March 15th or April 1st, for this one time only, in recognition of the fact that there is a mistake, and signatures collected before that date are invalid. So everybody has the same amount of time, the same access, all of that. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about just this one specific commissioner term? Is that true? Is that what you're talking about? Oops,
Yeah,
Representative.
3, which is technically right now, right, District 3, which is not currently, technically, there's no election, but theoretically, if there are people out there collecting, those that's giving somebody an advantage that they shouldn't have. And the signatures should be collected from February 15th to whenever. And if April 15th is too late, April 1st, I'm fine. I wouldn't even be opposed to March 15th if people had a month, as long as everybody is treated the same and all of those signatures were collected in a set time frame.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Flynn, if somebody is out there collecting signatures right now, knowing that this change will be made, are any signatures collected before we enact this legislation, before 1658 passes? Will those signatures be valid irrespective of which commission district they're for?
Well, if you pass this, if somebody turns in signatures for District 3, we're not going to certify them because we're going to say the District 2 is the only one on the ballot. We would normally only look that signatures are between January 1st and March 15th. So I think unless you expressly stated that, the signature collection would have to happen after a certain date in this bill, we would normally go by what the current law says, which is anything between January 1 and March 15th. I would respectfully ask that you not delay beyond March 15th because the primary is 4 different parties and we have a lot of ballot layout to do, and having any later filing deadlines does impact us. So I would not ask that, and this is an office that needs 50 signatures, so it's double what the representatives have to have, but it's half as many as a senator has to have. So it's still doable, I think. It's certainly, if you pass something during the next time you're in session, which I think is next week, then as an emergency, then I think there's still, more than 4 weeks to gather 50 signatures. Should be doable.
Thank you. Representative Copeland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that this is a difficult situation, but I'm concerned that those who followed the rules and got their signatures, to have them thrown out right off the bat. We all know collecting signatures takes effort. You go door to door, you have gatherings. I think it's unfair to ask the person who's already done the work to discard the work.
Thank you. Senator Baldacci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lynn, aren't we trying to fix a legal or constitutional problem? Or what's the source of the reason we have to pass those?
The problem occurred in the appendix to what became public law, chapter 488. So the county commissioner district apportionment that you all voted on in the second special had an appendix that switched the term dates. And so it's not a constitutional issue. I think it was always the intent that the district termination dates remain as they were before. And this bill corrects that error.
I meant a constitutional issue in terms of apportionment.
So I did talk to the Attorney General's office regarding this, and this is not covered by the apportionment language in the Constitution, because the apportionment is not about terms of office. Apportionment is drawing boundaries. The terms of office were not part of the apportionment plan because it's not part of what the Apportionment Commission is charged under the Constitution to do. So this is outside.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, this is outside of the constitutional limits on the portion.
Okay, so the source of the problem was it a scrivener's error type of thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just someone along the way swapped the dates for the Commissioner Districts 2 and 3.
Okay. So I think we have a problem if we don't pass this bill, that all we're doing is perpetuating a scrivener's error that was never intended by anybody, never intended by any vote. And I understand some certain inconveniences, but I think the fact of the matter is it's very much a technical issue. And if we don't do this, then we're just perpetuating that error even longer. So I would make a motion to ought to pass.
Thank you. Is there a second for this motion? Is there a second for Senator Baldacci's motion? I'll second the motion. Representative Toole, your hand is up. Do you have any further comments or?
I would support that if it was ought to pass as amended. People can start collecting their petitions February 15th and turn them in on March 15th. I certainly do understand where Secretary of State is coming from as far as adding time on at the end. But I think that it's important with so many people have concerns about electoral integrity that, mistake or no, there's a real world implication for this. And it's a simple fix to say, you got a month to get your signatures.
Ms. Flynn, you had your hand up at one point. Did you have another comment?
Well, I think what I meant to mention too is that, the practical implication of not passing this is that you give the District 2 Commissioner a 6-year term and you cut back the District 3 Commissioner, or the other way around. You cut back to 2 years, the one that would expire in 2024 if you don't do this, and you give an extra 2 years to the person who would have expired this year and have to run. So that's the real reason to do it.
Thank you. Senator Baldacci, your hand is still up. Okay. Just wondering if you had another comment.
No, I'll take it down.
Okay, thank you. Lynn, you have a comment here.
I do. I know you haven't. My question is the current due date for, and this is to Julie Flynn, is it currently under statute March 15th?
Yes.
Okay.
All candidates for the primary, March 15th.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Lynn or for Ms. Flynn? There being none, I believe we can move on to voting on this. Senator Baldacci.
If it will help Representative Toole support this bill, then I don't have a problem, going February 15th to March 15th. If that will help Representative Toole overcome his objections.
Ms. Flynn, is that technically possible?
I think you could pass it as part of this bill. You'd probably want to amend it to put that language specifically in there.
Okay.
So that we
But
know for this office, they would have that time period.
February 15th. Lynn, did you have a comment on this?
I do. My question would be, if someone from Commissioner District 2 had already started collecting signatures, would the amendment require them to throw away any signatures they've collected before February 15th?
Representative Tool?
Does she mean District 2 or 3? I'm confused.
Whichever the commission, whatever the correction is being made,
Right.
if somebody has already collected signatures, would they be thrown out? Because as Ms. Flynn said, if somebody collected signatures for a commissioner seat that is not up for election this year, then they wouldn't even be accepted. But are
Right.
you suggesting that if somebody has already collected signatures for a seat that everybody, most folks within the county may know is up for election, do they have to throw out all those signatures?
I would say so, because I just believe that, and I realize it's a really unfortunate mistake. It shouldn't have happened. But, I just don't think people should have that unfair advantage. It would be just like, I'm not saying anyone has done it, but if one of us was running for election and we decided to get a couple of 3 days lead and went to a holiday party and had somebody date a signature for after the first, and I'm not saying this ever happened. I want to be clear, it hasn't. But, I just think we need to make sure that the signatures are legit, that they were collected in the time we set out, and go from there. And I appreciate Senator Baldacci's compromise. I would wholeheartedly support that if he is agreeable to amending his motion.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I am pressing because I'm not sure that there is an unfair advantage. So if I may, just make some statements and have Ms. Flynn agree or disagree. If someone from District 3, which currently expires in 2022, if they've started collecting petitions, the petition is clear that they're collecting petitions for District 3?
Yes, they must put the district on.
Okay, so if someone's collecting signatures now for District 3 and this bill goes into effect, they may submit them to you, but they go nowhere because District 3 isn't expiring, correct?
That's right, if you amend the
Okay.
law. Yeah.
So then if someone in District 2 knows that you're going to change the law, they can actually be out there now collecting signatures. And Representative Toole, your concern is that they have an unfair advantage, the people in District 2, if they're being proactive because they might know that this is going to happen.
You're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm getting my district numbers confused. But the one that should be up this year, yeah, that's my concern, that somebody might be ahead of the game and out there banking signatures that technically, as of this moment in time, are.
Oops, you're freezing up, sir. Oops. Oops.
They're not legal, so my internet's going out.
Yeah, could you
we
repeat that
don't need-
statement, sir?
Can you all hear me?
We
That-
can now, yes.
If there was the district that should be up this year, that people are collecting signatures when they should wait until we pass this. And I think the way around it is to just say, anything between February 15th and March 15th is valid.
Okay. Senator Baldacci, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think on further reflection, I'm gonna leave my motion the way it was and not amend it, because I think we're making it too complicated. And so I'm gonna stick with my original motion to pass, because this is really an error that was nobody's fault in this committee or probably in the Secretary of State's office, but that just has to be corrected so we don't keep perpetuating.
Right. Personally, I do not feel that 50 signatures is overburdening. That it's easy enough to get those signatures irrespective of when people start. It's harder now with COVID, but it's not an overwhelming burden for the folks in Saginaw County running for county commissioner to get 50 signatures, I believe. So are there any further comments with regard to this bill? There being none, Cheryl, could you call the roll on this matter?
Yes, should I change the motion back to ought to pass?
Yes, please, if you could. I believe the motion on the floor is ought to pass.
Okay.
Senator Baldacci, did you have a comment, or is your hand just up?
Sorry, no, I just forgot to lower it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Cheryl.
Yep. LD 1832 ought to pass. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton, absent. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Representative William Toole.
Yes.
Representative William Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
I don't see Mr. Bryant here.
No. Representative Mark Bryant, absent. Representative Randall Greenwood, absent. Representative Sean Paulus, absent. Representative Francis Head.
Yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. 8, yes, 8, yes, and 5 absent.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the unanimity today on this bill. It's just a technical issue that I hope we can fix shortly. And as I mentioned, the county administrator for Knox County will be sending out his statement with regard to our bill next week about needing a fix for Knox County. So hopefully that will solve all our issues. Yeah, Representative Toole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I realize it is a technical, and I think it is important that we get this fixed as soon as possible. As to Knox County, I wonder, I know that's not what we're discussing today, but I wonder if that is going to warrant another bill.
Probably
Or-
not. I think what they're doing is just confirming, reconfirming that the budget committee will remain as it is. So it's just. So I don't believe that there's a fix, but I have asked the county administrator to send along testimony, so we'll know what he's asking for.
Super, that sounds great.
Thank you very much. So we have dealt with our bills. I believe we have move along to because I'll call a close to the work sessions today, and we'll move along to the discussions of the GEA, the statutes. Lynn?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
And I'd also like to, I know they've left, but I would also like to thank Ms. Flynn for her help on this previous bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as you know, you have been reviewing specific GEA reports from specific entities as required by statute. The statute also requires by June of 2022, and I'm going to try and share my screen to show you the law. The law also requires this committee to conduct a review of the entire GEA statute, starting no later than reviewing no later than June 30th of 2022 and every 10 years thereafter. So this is a common review requirement in the past. I believe it was in 2013. The State and Local Government Committee did this review of the statute. This review could be incredibly extensive, and you could look into any part of the GEA statute and the entire GEA statute at your discretion. I can tell you that in the past, what has happened is the committee, the State and Local Government Committee, has reported out a bill. It updates the dates, so there are dates in the statute of when reports are due. It removes unnecessary reports. So for example, in 2013, the statute made reference to the Maine Science and Technology Foundation, and that foundation was no longer in existence. So the State and Local Government Committee bill removed that. So you remove entities that are no longer in existence. You can update report dates. And another thing you may consider is asking committees of jurisdiction if there are reports they receive now that should go somewhere else. So for example, medical marijuana goes to HHS. Some of you may be aware that medical marijuana is no longer part of HHS. It's under the DATS, and that is handled by Veterans and Legal Affairs. So updating dates, removing entities that no longer exist, and switching reports to the committees of appropriate jurisdiction are some of the common activities that the state and local government has done in the past. And at this point, I would suggest that I ask your permission to reach out to committees of jurisdiction to see if there's any entities that no longer exist, or if there are any reports that should go to a different committee. And then based on that information, that I come back to you with what would be a proposed committee bill to update dates and agency reporting.
Thank you. That sounds good to me. Is there anything else that the committee would like for Lynn to do in our review? Representative Toole, did you have any suggestions?
No, I think those 3 bullet points that she outlined of the scope of our review, I think would be adequate. I don't think we necessarily need to go into the nuts and bolts of the process behind the GEA, but I do think we need to make sure that entities are reporting to the right committees or the current committees and all of that sort of thing. So yes, I would say that would be adequate. And also any entities that are no longer in existence probably should be taken out.
Right. I look upon this more as a technical matter that we take the opportunity to make sure that all of our references are still appropriate. I don't believe this is an opportunity that we don't need to take this time to debate grammar or punctuation or anything like that. So I think that Lynn's suggestion is a good one. If any other members have any differences, and I'm not seeing any, I think that sounds good. So if you could compile that information and bring it back to us, that would really be great. Representative Copeland, did you have any comments, or you're all set? Okay, perfect. Is that it? So let's see what's up next. We have a meeting on Wednesday.
You do, Madam Chair. You are going to get 2 quasi-agency reports. I believe I've sent them out already.
Okay.
So you're going to go through the quasi-agency reports from Maine Municipal Bond Bank and Maine Government Facilities Authority. And you'll also finish up your GEA review of Maine Government Facilities Authority. And then you do also have a report back from the town of Wyndham regarding a bill from last session about snow plowing on private ways. So
Perfect.
Wednesday is report review.
Wonderful. I believe that sounds good. Cheryl, is there anything else we need to know?
No.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for a very productive morning. And I look forward to seeing you folks on Wednesday. Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great week.
Be well, Senator Rosen. You're welcome.